What's up, everybody? Thanks once again for joining us, and welcome back to Titletown South Florida, the Miami Herald's high school sports show. I'm Andre Fernandez, Deputy Sports Editor at the Miami Herald, joined once again by David Wilson, our sports writer extraordinaire, covering football season, basketball season, Panthers, Marlins, pretty much everything, right, David?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much everything. Dolphin season, which we saw come to a crashing halt, heartbreaking loss up in Buffalo.
Yeah, all of a sudden a bunch of seasons are over and I don't know what to do with myself.
But you're still out there and there's still a lot to talk about, man. There's a lot of off-season movement already, and that's what we want to talk about this week a little bit, as well as talk a little bit about basketball. We'll start with a segment where we'll go over some of the biggest big-name transfers that have happened so far in high school football. What kind of impact are they going to have at their new schools coming this season? Obviously, we're in the 7-on-7 circuit now. Teams are starting to play in tournaments. Players are starting to showcase their skills for the next season of colleges. We've got signing day coming up, the final signing day coming up on February 1st as well. So we'll hit briefly on that today, but we'll go more in detail in our next episode next week. We'll also salute some of the top performances around town this past week with our Players of the Week segment. Remember, you can vote on those. Those are available at miamiherald.com. Vote as many times as you want. They're not behind the paywall. Vote for your favorite players there. And since winter sports season, like we said before, is in high gear now, we're getting close to the playoffs. We're going to bring on a good friend of ours, Jacob Shaw, former coach at Florida Memorial and Miami Beach High, who does a great job at MiamiDadeBasketball.com, knows the ins and outs of Dade and Broward basketball. We're going to get some of his insights as well. So remember, if you're watching this show on YouTube or at MiamiHerald.com. Remember, it is also available as a podcast, so you can hear it in the car, download it, Spotify, iTunes, whatever platform you like listening to your podcast, it's available there as well. But we're going to get to it right now, a little football talk. And David, the one that jumps out at everybody, the rich get richer. We always used to say that about the private schools, but boy, Miami Central, they have been the off-season acquisition capital so far this offseason so far. I mean, the one that jumps out at me right off the bat is Armando Blunt. I mean, I've loved what I've seen out of this kid from such a young age over at Dillard, and what he can do with this defense. I mean, I know this defense loses Ruben Bain, but with Ezekiel Marcelin, one of the best players in his class already there, I mean, Armando Blunt can almost, I mean, we're already starting to, we don't want to print the tickets too early, but this team is going to have a heck of a chance to get 5 state titles in a row the way this defense is looking.
Yeah, it's interesting because they had such a young defense last year. Obviously, Ruben Bain sucks up a lot of the attention when you're getting 39 sacks in a season or 29 sacks in a season, 39 tackles for loss. But, I mean, they're E.J. Marcelin, the linebacker, is one of their best players, sophomore. Amari Wallace, kind of their top corner, a sophomore. It was a really young group. The offense was kind of the veteran group last year. It's going to be a lot more turnover there. There was a lot of, obviously, their quarterback, Kwan Jenkins, and a bunch of Division I wide receivers. But, I mean, Armando Blunt might Central is probably losing the best defensive player in South Florida this year, but they might be gaining the guy who could easily be the best defensive player in South Florida next year.
I mean, he could be one of the best players in the country, best athletes, because I've seen him do it on the track as well as a thrower.
Yeah, he's a shot put state champion as well.
One of the best in the nation, and that as well. Strong kid that's only going to get bigger, stronger, and in that system, I'm sure is going to thrive. Another kid transferring into that defense from Monsignor Pace, Vincent Shavers, who I got the chance to see him this past week at the Mills Pond at the Battle 7-on-7 tournament a little bit. Obviously, you're not going all out and sacking the quarterback because it's like flag football, but he was in the backfield a couple of times and was able to get to the quarterback, showed what he can also do in coverage a little bit. They put him on some of the fast receivers that they faced over there for his squad, for the DEFCON 1 squad out there. This is another kid that's going to add so much, I think, to that side of the football for the Rockets.
Yeah, he'll be a veteran, I guess, for that group this year. But I like that this is a young group that's going to grow together, and then obviously they're adding elite talent, kind of like every power. We're singling out Central here. We're going to talk about a couple other teams. Central, obviously not alone in loading up on transfers. That's the way high school football works now in South Florida, for better or worse. And when you're a team like Central, guys want to go play there. They see what they do in terms of sending guys, not just Division I, but guys who I remember Jube Joseph, their coach, a couple months ago told me they're not in the business of red shirts. They get their guys ready well. So it's understandable why guys want to go play there. Not just because you win state titles and contend for national titles, but I think both of those guys are going to develop really well there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting too on the offensive side. Like you said, Keon Jenkins is gone, but they 2 quarterbacks have come in: Antonio Smith from Killian and another one, J.C. Evans, coming from San Antonio. So we'll probably see a good quarterback competition come, once we get closer to spring ball, get a glimpse of some of these kids and what they can do. But I'd expect that offense to be explosive as usual and have a running game to back it up probably.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they pivot. The last 2 years, really, it was basically since Amari Daniels graduated a couple years ago and went to Texas A&M. And then they had 2 years of Kewan Jenkins. They kind of became more of a pass-heavy team. They had a lot of really, really good receivers last year. Good balance at running back too, but it'll be interesting to see if they pivot back to what we're used to Central being a run-heavy team. They had an underclassman running back, Nicholas McCall, who started the year on JV and by the end of the year was kind of right there as one of their top running backs. So they've certainly got a potential future star there, and a little bit less. Those are 2 quarterbacks who have like Evans in particular has a couple scholarship offers already as a young guy, but they're in all likelihood it's not going to be what Kewan Jenkins was for them as a 3-year starting quarterback, a true dual threat guy. And we know Central, they want to run the ball, right? That's what they do. They give that number 4 to their running backs, and they say, all right, run for 1,400 yards for us.
Yeah, and that's kind of been in the past when they had a kind of like the workhorse back, whether it was Devontae Freeman or Dalvin Cook. But then in recent years, it's been that committee backfield, like you said, where it's been like 3-4 options, and they just pound you to death on that side of the ball. But a team that's in their division and they're going to have to contend with that was getting close. They're not quite yet maybe at that elite level, but Norland, they're making a push, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, which I think is the area that they needed to address, that they need to get stronger in order to contend with a Central, with a Northwestern. And 2 guys right off the bat are the two siblings from Jackson, Ty Coolhill, Ty Clean Lumen. I mean, those 2 alone, bringing them in, that's going to reinforce that side of the ball for sure. And they're going to be able to slow down some teams that maybe they weren't able to this past season.
Yeah, those guys are from Canada. So you always wonder when guys come internationally, like, are they, and they're pretty highly ranked as recruits. You always wonder, like, are they projects? Are they, going to take some time to get used to South Florida competition? There was no adjustment there. They were 2 of the best edge rushers in South Florida this year, both double-digit sacks. At Jackson, playing in the toughest classification, toughest region in the state. They're going to transform that Jackson defense a little bit. Not that it was a bad defense last year. They had some injuries. Shamari Holloman, who I think on paper is probably supposed to be their best guy on defense, going to FIU. I think only played 2 games this year. I think the way their offense is set up, obviously they're going to lose Javen Simpkins, who's one of the best running backs in the area over the last couple of years, but Enio Yapor is kind of like an offense unto himself, I think, just with his dual threat ability. And they've got good weapons around him still. But yeah, I think loading up that defense, to me, Norland is kind of the biggest story, I think, of the transfer portal season here in high school football. Because Central, I think we knew no matter what, they were going to be really good, right? Norland, we knew was going to be really good, but I think they are positioning themselves now where they can be it's hard. If they're in the same classification as Central, it's always going to be hard. But I think they are positioning themselves where they are firmly now in that kind of Central Northwestern class or have a chance to be in that Central Northwestern
like, are they a serious threat now to Central? And it could be if this mix works, especially, and there's others too. Jade Carter, an athlete, comes over from South Broward, can play a few different spots for them. Tamari Johnson as well. I mean,
they got Jeremiah Marcelin back, who's one of the best linebackers, edge rushers in South Florida. And like I said, they're young. Their leading receiver, Isaiah Scott, will be back.
Yes, big weapon.
Ivory Aikens, a guy with 700+ receiving yards, is back. Joaquin Reed, another, their top 3 receivers are all back. So they lose Simpkins, but they've still got a ton of weapons on that offense.
Yeah. And a team that doesn't look like they lost much at all, which they've been the interesting question mark that we were wondering. I mean, then again, it is January. It's still early. We haven't gone through spring ball yet. But as of now, the signs are pointing in a good direction for the Homestead Broncos, because the stalwarts of that team, like Joshua Townsend and those guys, they're still there. And they've added on, as you noted, James Randall, a wide receiver from Daytona Beach mainland, has come in. So in theory, if this holds and continues to hold under Coach Ron Thornton, the offense should be just as explosive as it was when they got him all the way to state for the first time this past season.
Yeah, just a reminder, Philip Simpson, who led Homestead to its first ever state title this year, left right after the game, take the job at Nebraska on Matt Rule's staff as a an analyst and a assistant defensive line coach.
Sending pictures of that snow last week with the big with the end. Yeah, so he's getting used to it.
So Homestead, was one of the best stories in South Florida over the last couple of years. But anytime a coach leaves, how many times have we seen that where a team pops up for a couple of years, becomes a contender with a certain coach, that coach leaves and they can't sustain it. Obviously they got to do it on the field, but in this transfer era we live in South Florida high school football, coach leaving, you can tell right away. Sometimes it's not going to work if a bunch of guys leave. And getting Randall in, to me, is a big deal. It's a sign, right? It's a sign that, that guy could have come down, and we know, I don't know exactly where he's moving to, but even if you move down to Homestead, you could go to Southridge, right? You could go to Palmetto, you could go to Columbus. Teams that have Southridge more stability just in terms of the coaching staff, and then those other schools just perennial contenders. The fact that he is deciding to go play for Homestead because you have that choice in South Florida with school choice, I think is a good sign for the direction Homestead is going to be moving in.
Yeah, and hope to see it, because it really made things interesting last year. St. Thomas, we know, kind of like Central, they're going to reload. They're going to be in the fight again to get another one. But it's good when you have another contender that's legit like that and is able to maybe battle them. So good and good to see the Broncos in a new school like that join that mix. Others of note that have moved around that I think are interesting to see what kind of impact they're going to make. Charquez Lee, you noted, a linebacker, a very athletic, skilled guy at that position, moved from LaSalle to Palmetto. And then Palmetto, he's basically going to fill in because they lost Willis McGahee, who has also moved over to Columbus. Like, now that right there, that Columbus defense now is starting to look just about where you have to keep them in the conversation of a Central, of those loaded. Every position is stacked. They're deep with Dalen Russell there, with Dylan Stevenson. Now you add a Willis McGahee to the picture. The Explorers, at least defensively, look like they have what they need potentially to going forward to go for a repeat, which they've never done.
Yeah, Willis McGahee may be the biggest name on that defense just because of the name, but they've also got Dalen Russell, who was just our defensive player of the year for the biggest schools in Dade County. Right. And the highest ranked guy of that group is 5-star edge rusher TJ Capers, who committed to Louisville a couple of weeks back. So, I mean, those three are going to be, McGahee's an edge guy, right? He plays some defensive end, plays some linebacker. It'll be interesting to see where Central uses him. And they have Dylan Stevenson. I forgot about Dylan Stevenson, right? So they've got, I would guess McGahee, is going to be a stand-up edge rusher then, but they've got four guys who are legit Power 5 talents, and most of whom, 3 of the 4 first team all county last year. I think Dylan Stevenson would be having second team. Like those are 4 of the on the short list of best defensive players in South Florida going into next year.
And Capers, we know, had that injury right before the end of the season, but he's expected to be fine for spring ball.
And you mentioned competing with Central and Northwestern. Yeah. They beat Northwestern, took Central to the wire last year. So they were close already.
Right.
They very well might be. They're going to be, I think, certainly in that class this year, finishing top 25 in the nation this year.
It could put them right, and with Mendoza back on offense and some of those guys, it could put them.
Yeah, Jose Leon. They don't lose a lot.
Right. They could go into the season for a change as in that top 15 nationally sort of thing if they keep this up. And again, we're still a few months away, so there's going to be, not just for Columbus, but there's going to be a lot of movement. So we'll keep everybody posted, on big developments. We'll discuss that throughout the off season. Again, we're going to bring on Coach Shaw in a moment, but before we do, the Players of the Week candidates this week. In Dade, we've got some good ones. Christian Reed at Matter Lakes boys basketball. He's having a great season, led them to a key win over Riviera Prep. On the girls' side, Somerset Silver Palms is making some noise. Shania Gamble, one of the best players in Dade this season, he beat Miami High, which is a solid victory anytime you can get it over the Stingerees on the girls' side. Matthew Marina for Palmetto. They're 16-3 heading into the GMAC tournament. Switching over to wrestling, Cordell White scored 3 quick pins at 160 pounds. The Bucks, for the 5th time, are state duels champions this past weekend. Salute to the Bucks there. They got it done in Kissimmee. Now the individual bracket comes up for the next couple of weeks as they chase another state championship. And on the girls' soccer side, Sienna Aviles with a big goal to lead Lourdes to a win over previously unbeaten Archbishop McCarthy. Both those teams, Lourdes and McCarthy, are in the mix for state championships on the girls' soccer side this year. And then on Broward, Josh Harris for Pines Charter for boys basketball had a great week, and we know they're going to be in the mix. They had a bit of a slow start to the season, but they're always a contender. On the girls' basketball side, Jocelyn Gagnon for Somerset Prep had a big game, 30 points, 10 steals in a win over Somerset Canyon. Somerset Prep is could be a contender this year as well to get to state, to get to Lakeland. On the wrestling side, Miramar, Kylan Butler had a great tournament, led Miramar to the state duels finals for the first time in school history. Sammy Villaverde for American Heritage on the girls' soccer side continues to dominate. The Patriots are going to be in it in soccer on both the boys and girls' side, contending for state titles as they tend to do. And kind of an under-the-radar kid for Highlands Christian on the boys' basketball side. Josiah Pierre Johnson is another one to keep an eye on. He's had a good year. Can Highlands Christian maybe make some noise in the playoffs? We shall see. But we'll take a pause for a quick moment here and then bring on Coach Shaw to talk some hoops. All right. How you doing, Coach Shaw? We are back on Titletown South Florida. We are going to have a very, like we said before, a good friend of ours for a long time, and we're happy to have him here. Coach Jacob Shaw used to coach at Florida Memorial University, Miami Beach before that, but nowadays he is one of the people that really does a great job for the kids in Dade and Broward counties, getting them exposure. For his website, MiamiDadeBasketball.com, if you could check it out, does all kinds of, keeps you up to date on what the best games are, how the best kids are doing, leaders, stats, you name it. But Coach Shaw, you tell us, and welcome to the show. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. You guys can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Good. Good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. Started this project from the ground up, and to get a chance to be online and be with you guys is very inspirational, and it's very humbling.
Coach, known you for a while, man. We go back to the days with Miami Beach, and when Zach was there and dominating, and you've seen a lot of the best kids, and you're seeing them again right now. I guess I wanted to kind of go through some of the contenders this year, and obviously that has to start with the team on top right now is Columbus, and with the Boozer twins there. Where from all the talent you've watched, where would you say Cameron and even Caden, but Cameron I know is the one that's like really rated high. Where does he kind of stack up? I guess you would say like all time. Where would you put him if he continues to trend the way he is and the talent, the skill set that he has?
He can arguably be the best player that actually ever came out of South Florida, but maybe out of the state of Florida. Right now, he's ranked the #1 player in the country overall of class. It's because it's not the things that he does as far as scoring. It's the other things. He'll get 8 assists a game, a couple blocks, and he's 6'8", 200. 20, 30-pound sophomore. He just dominates the glass, and he's able to score, and he can shoot too. He's like a modern version of a Tim Duncan, very fundamentally sound. Doesn't take a lot of bad shots and never take plays off, and that's what actually makes him more elite than a lot of guys. He never really takes plays off, and that guy works extremely hard. So
Can anyone contend with them this year, or is this just pretty much theirs for the taking in Class 7A?
So Lake Worth is pretty good. So Lake Worth played them to the wire last year, and Lake Worth has gotten better. So I wouldn't count Lake Worth out, but you gotta understand that this Columbus team, like I was like, you have to literally bring Michael Jordan in there to beat him, and they brought him. They brought DJ Wagner. He's the #1 senior in the country. They literally brought Michael Jordan in the gym to beat, and they lost. So it's very hard to say that he's that they can lose a game in Florida besides the IMG or Montverde. Those are the teams that contend with them. Meadow Lakes did a good job, but right now I think they're the best team in the state. And for 7A, I would give it to them. Lake Worth right behind them.
Well, we saw that Matter Lakes team a little bit against Riviera Prep the other day. And then speaking of that, I mean, that's Christian Reed gets a lot of headlines. I know that, but I know you told me you like this kid, Bradley, a lot, and some of the other guys on that team. Tell us about the Bears and the strides that program has made as a school, too, because they're pretty young school still and young program.
Oh, yeah. The athletic director over there, JC, does a great job of even hiring coaches and making sure the program sustains a great level. And it always starts from the athletic director. But also, I think Coach Dillon over there, he's done a great job with having those kids play at a level that not a lot of teams can play at all the time. They stay consistent, and they play some of the top teams in the county. Anthony Knowles is a sophomore on their team, probably a Division I prospect. You know what I mean? He controls a lot of the game. And you have a star guard in Michael Bradley Jr. I mean, Michael Bradley III, who actually is one of the better shooters in the county. But the difference between him is he one of the better man-to-man defenders also. He can also guard every multiple position, even with his side. He signed with Barry University. So they have a really good team. Christian Reed's an energy guy. I mean, he's a really good rebounder. He attacks the basket really hard, and then he's very unselfish. So that team is probably one of the most unselfish teams in the county. So that's what makes them special.
One team I'm curious about is St. Thomas Aquinas, just because you hear St. Thomas Aquinas, you expect them to contend in every sport.
Okay.
They've been building, it seems like, over the last couple of years, but this seems like it has a chance to be best team they've had in a really long time. What has gotten them maybe to that next level this year?
Coach DJ Sandy. I mean, DJ Sandy's son, Drake Sandy, is his son. His son's on the team. He's a freshman point guard. He's a Mr. Basketball candidate for us, and he's able to control the game a lot for them. And they have like 3 or 4 guys, maybe 4 guys, averaging 10 points. You know what I mean? It's a very balanced offense. They play very sound defense. They don't do nothing spectacular, but they're very fundamental, and they can shoot the ball pretty well. But the Drake Sandy kid, he has a bright future coming for him throughout his sports career.
In staying in Broward, I wanted to ask you, I've seen teams that are doing well this year: Cypress Bay, Douglas, Boyd Anderson here and there have had some good wins, Deerfield Beach. Is there a team on the Broward side that we're going to be sitting here around regional finals time thinking this team has really kind of come out of nowhere and surprised people and has a shot?
Pines Charter, just like you mentioned earlier, Pines Charter and Roca, they have a very good core that they always. I don't know what they injected to their kids the second half of the season, but they do a good job of making sure when it's game time, when the game is on the money, they actually pull through. So I think they'll be pretty good. Pines Charter, and also South Plantation is pretty good too. That's a team that didn't play a crazy schedule, but have a lot of athletes and have a go-to point guard out there. So I think South Plantation will be solid.
Anybody on the Dade side? I guess same question. Anybody kind of in those lower classes, like the smaller classes that could? I mean, we know Riviera's good in the 3A side, but anybody that maybe?
I think St. Brendan, the Sabres over there, St. Brendan, they haven't had all their players all year due to injury, and I think when those guys get back, they can shoot the ball at any level. So I mean, at a really high level against anybody. So it's going to be very tough for teams to defend them, and plus they press pretty good, and they're not going to pass the eye test when you see them in the layup line. But they shoot a high percentage. They just scored 100 points the other day on Somerset Academy Canyons or something like that. They scored 100 points. It was like 110 to 94, so they can really put the ball up. So that's a scary team that nobody really wants to see in the playoffs because anything can happen because they never really out of the game because they can shoot the ball so well.
Coach, switching to the girls real quick. American Heritage, we know they're on an amazing run as a program, but they lost their star Tanaya Latson, who might be the ACC Player of the Year this year. Not forget Freshman of the Year, probably Player of the Year. But what do you think of that squad? Have you seen that squad? Jaslyn Green, I know, is one of the kids that's done well for them. Can they keep it going? Can they win another one?
I think they'll that's an easy question there. I think they'll win a state title easily. That's one of the top teams, not even in state, probably in the Southeast Florida. So for the girls side, they're probably one of the most dominant teams out here. You also got a lot of girls teams that's pretty dominant from the Broward side. You got Ely, we got the kid, what's her name? Alicia Battle, a little 5'1" point guard who get everybody the ball. Gianna Corbett, she's a 6 foot forward out there. Those are high major prospects out there for Broward. So Broward has some talent on the girls side. I think it's a lot better from the women's side compared to the boys side for the Broward. But I think Broward, they got some talent. They got some state championship worthy. Even St. Thomas Aquinas, they have a really good program out there too with Katie Hessian and those girls.
Yeah, we've had a good run of girls' success down here in South Florida, whether it's those 3 Broward schools you just mentioned, obviously Miami Country Day. Is there anyone new in that mix? Anyone who hasn't maybe been quite at that level that you think has a chance to maybe crack that state title, Final Four type contention this year?
One of the teams is Herb Christian. They have a kid on their team, a girl on their team, Emily Rodriguez. She's took the city by storm. She's averaging like 20. These are real numbers too. She's averaging like 28 points. Because I gotta, when they send them to me,
yeah, you gotta verify it. I know what you're saying.
So she averaging like 28 points and like 15 rebounds a game, and they only lost by 2 to Miami Country Day. And she was doing this all by herself. She's an EYBL kid. I think Herb Christian out of Miami, they're going to surge pretty good. And if he add any more pieces to that, especially next year, they could be a state championship contender too.
Yeah. So who comes out of that mix? Because you were saying before about all those teams in Broward, but like Dillard, Ely, St. Thomas, they're all in that same division. I mean, that's going to be a battle. We're going to see it even this week with the BCAA Big 8 coming up. I mean, who could have an edge in that? Or is it St. Thomas again, or does Ely or Dillard have a chance to sneak through?
I think, I think.
Not a prediction, but just kind of, what do you think?
When you say like predictions, like I'm thinking, I'm gonna go with Ely coming out of there. You know what I mean? They're gonna sneak their way through there and wind up grabbing that Big 8. Because I think they just have a better guard play, but at the same time, I think Katie Hessian, that whole St. Thomas Aquinas group is just a tough and phenomenal group. But I think they're one of the top teams in the country too. So I'm not going to take anything from them. But I think that'd be a great matchup. You know, man, I think they get a chance. If they get a chance to play, they're going to get a lot of eyes set on that matchup.
Yeah. I was going to say on one of the teams that like Silver Palms, I think beat Miami High the other night. Yeah, it was another interesting one. I mean, they've got, they're young. Kind of reminds me of what their coach had at Keysgate. The young squad getting better, but that could be another team to keep an eye on. But Coach, beyond just like we're asking you about all these teams, but just for you, man, tell us a little bit about like what you do, why you do what you do, because beyond the coaching, you've taken the time to really get these kids noticed and get them on the radar. And I'm not even talking so much about the boozers or Dante Allen, but the under the radar hidden gems that, it's not like football where you turn over a rock and there's a D1 kid here or there. In basketball, a lot of these kids, there's talent, but it really needs to be discovered by some of these guys. And you do a good job of telling people who those kids are. What drives you to do that? What drove you to start it in the first place, and what motivates you to do that?
It was easy. Vince Baldwin, and he's a director at Nike. He started when I was in Detroit, Michigan, because I'm from Detroit. They had Prep Spotlight, and I noticed that down here, we wasn't doing anything like that. We really didn't have anything where we can rank players, and college coaches can gauge the talent that we have around here. So really what I wanted to do was just help gauge the talent that we have in the area and give kids more exposure so we can bring that to light. Like the Division I kids, the Cameron Boozers, those guys, they don't need me. Those the high majors, the Corey Collins, those guys don't need me. It's the guys that's the Division III guys, the NAIA guys, those are Division II guys, their eyes that they're not on there. So we put out a platform. Actually, this is my 6th year doing it to raise the awareness of what we have around in the area and raise the exposure that we can get our kids more scholarships and actually put ourselves on this pedestal around the country.
Any kid that jumps out at you that maybe this year is like that hidden gem that you've seen kind of flourish, or maybe from that, anybody right now just comes the first guy name on you that jumps out?
I like the kid from I mean, he plays on one of the top teams, but I like the kid from Columbus, Garen Best. I like him as the point guard. I really think he's a solid point guard, and he can help a lot of people. He can handle the ball pretty well, and he's a ball hawk. The kid from Marina, Matthew Marina from Palmetto. He's averaging like 18 points a game. Now, that's a kid that I think that's going to be special for somebody. If you pick him up, even if you're a Division II, NAIA, Division III, he's a kid that can just hit shots, man. Like, he's a kid that can really just score that. And also the whole I have a couple guards on South Dade, Ocean, what's his name? Ocean, I forget his name, but they have a couple guards on South Dade that's pretty good that can help people, but they're young. But realistically, the kids that I like to help are the kids that hasn't been seen by the public, you know what I mean, and that haven't had a stage during travel season. So I really like to do that. But then, I'm not gonna forget neither Gabe Hernandez too. He's averaging 22 points a game out of Doral, so he's a solid prospect too. I think an NAIA Division II, maybe a low Division I, can take a look at him. He's a great shooter.
Well, Coach, we thank you for coming on. Tell everybody where to find you. I know MiamiDadeBasketball.com is your site, but anywhere else that people can look at your work?
I'm on Twitter at MiamiDadeBB, and I'm on Instagram at MiamiDadeBB also. Please follow us on MiamiDadeBasketball.com. Check out some of your Mr. Basketball, Miss Basketball. Every Sunday we update the team rankings. Hopefully you tune in. Thank you for following.
Yeah, and Coach, well, I'm sure you'll have the GMAC and the BCAA the next 2 weeks covered. So check out all the great stuff he's going to have on there on his website the next couple of weeks. And again, Coach, thank you for joining us. We hope we can do this again every once in a while and talk some hoops with you.
Thank you. Anytime you guys need me, just let me know.
Appreciate you, Coach. All right. Well, Coach Shaw, once again, we were very happy to have him on, and we'll do that. We'll see if we can do that every once in a while. Talk some hoops with him throughout the hoop season. Remember, as we said before, the GMAC and the BCAA county tournaments are this week, but the districts are right around the corner. State tournaments after that come late February. We'll keep you posted on. We'll be covering those. So check out our coverage on MiamiHerald.com. But we'll also be talking about it in future episodes of this show, as well as next week. We'll have our signing day preview. David and I will be discussing some of the kids that are left. Not a lot left. A lot of people have already.
It'll be quiet next week.
Yeah,
next week. I guess it's next week. So, but there's a couple.
Yeah, Javin Simpkins from Norland, who you mentioned before, is one of them. One of the interesting storylines still to follow. So we'll have that for you. But for now, for David, for myself, thank you once again for watching. Have a safe weekend, and we will see you guys next week.